Hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you all for taking the time to join our webinar today. In this webinar, we'll actually be covering communication strategies to help you survive lean times, specifically really thinking about making the switch to the newer front plans, the differences between your old plan and your new plan. And I know that we have a number of people signed up, so we'll just go ahead and give them a minute to get settled here. So feel free, grab that cup of coffee if you want, run to the restroom. We're going to get started here in just 1 minute. While we are waiting, my name is Matthew. As you can see here, my photo in the bottom left-hand side. I am your resident growth guru here at Front. So basically a product expert covering everything that you need to know to be successful on Front. So if you have some of those burning questions, please jot them down. I will be happy to answer them throughout this time. We will have about 45 minutes or so together during this webinar. I will make sure to cover a number of topics in our agenda today. First, we're going to be going over the new plans that Front has created to help us all navigate through these new times that really the whole world is experiencing today. Specifically, we're going to be diving deep into our newest plan called Growth. So I'll actually be presenting a walkthrough of this plan, covering everything that you will get with this plan and making the changes, basically what to expect in switching to that newer version of Front. Third, we'll be talking about cost savings that you will get in this new plan. So hint, hint, you will want to make sure that you're staying through not only that walkthrough, but basically the cost savings. And we'll give a little bit of a preview here that for most of you, you're actually going to be getting more for what you pay today. So really great. And then we'll make sure to wrap up the last 10 minutes or so with any questions that anyone has. Inside this webinar platform, you should be able to have a Q&A that you will be able to see here. If you have a question, feel free to ask it there. If you don't see me answer it right away, it's probably because I'm saving it for the end. But don't feel obligated to save it and type it at the end. You can go ahead and ask it whenever you would like. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So we want to talk about basically why we created new plans here at Front. So I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit and give you some context into our thinking here at Front, really in helping all of you make sure that you're driving even more operational efficiency and making your customers have the best experience possible. We want all of you to achieve all of those positive business outcomes that you have set for yourselves, for your team. Maybe it's for the next 3 months, maybe it's for the rest of your fiscal year. But basically, what many of you have probably seen is that we have created 3 different plans. So for most of you, you're probably on a plan that is called Pro. And this plan is one of our deprecated versions. Many of you who have been customers for many years, probably on one of the deprecated versions of Front. Now we have 3 new versions. These are called Starter, Growth, and Scale. Part of why we created these new plans is because we have built more capabilities and functionality for all of you. Basically, as our engineering and our product teams have grown, we've been able to build out more robust versions of Front in these 3 different plans. And it has created more powerful workflows that can be leveraged for all of your teams in an organization. Some of these new capabilities and functionalities we will be going through, but particularly when navigating some of these challenging times ahead, we want to make sure that we are connected with all of our customers and as close as possible with them. And we'll talk about a few ways that we can do that to really make sure that we are beating out all of our competition and giving customers a reason to keep coming back to us. The second major reason why we built these new plans is it helps teams scale naturally. What we have seen through many, many years here at Front is it is a dynamic tool. More and more individuals at an organization tend to join Front as that team starts to use it over time. They might sign up with just a sales team, and in a month, they're adding their support team, their success team, maybe even finance to help process some of those contracts. So with these new plans, we have created ways for your teams to scale not only faster, whether it's just one team, or if it is interdepartmental or across the company. And thirdly, our largest change here is that we wanted to make sure that we have long-term relationships with all of you. Many of you who are here today have actually been Front customers for a number of years. I think everyone who is on one of the old versions, we deprecated those in 2020. So probably at least 2 years old is maybe the youngest customer that we might have in this webinar. But we wanted to make sure that we have long-term partnerships with all of our customers, and it's a win-win scenario. Allowing all of you to give your feedback to us, we can make those changes to provide an even better Front experience for all of you. So now let's go ahead and really dive into the meat of our topic today, which is an overview of the growth plan. So this plan, as you saw from a few slides ago, is primarily going to reflect a lot of what you have in your existing plan today, but even more. And let's go ahead and talk about what more we will be getting in making this switch. First, what we will see in our new growth plan is that we are going to achieve just higher team performance. So we will have access to new reports, something called SLAs. For those of you who are not familiar with it, we will talk about this, but that just stands for service level agreements. You will have new ways to create message templates in order to easily monitor your team performance and improve the relationships with your customers. So really these new analytics to look at your performance and make sure that you are pinpointing those areas that you want to improve. Second, we are going to help you drive higher efficiency and faster access to all of your customer data. So not only do we have new enhanced workflows and rules, but you will be able to sync directly with your CRMs. That way your whole team can just work more quickly and easily inside Front. We'll also be touching base on something called Front Accounts, which many of you probably don't have today, and it's just a great way to have all of that customer data at your fingertips. And third, you will be able to connect with customers on their preferred channels. We know that customers love reaching out to us, whether it is through social media, email, text, whatever they find, that's how they want to contact us. And so I want to just highlight a few of the different things that our team is building inside the new growth plan to allow those customers to reach out to all of you. So while to them, they're using their preferred channels, but for you, it's as simple as just having that channel directly inside Front. So fewer applications to have to switch through and one cohesive platform for all of that communication. So first, let's go ahead and dive into Front Accounts. So Front Accounts is actually going to be a way that we can get a 360-degree overview of all of our customers directly in Front. So basically what this is going to do is pull in our account information inside Front. So that's going to be all of those companies that we work with, all of those businesses. What you have today inside Front is contact information. So you can look at a unique individual, but now you can actually look at that whole account. So let's say you work with 10 contacts at Acme Corporation. Now you can see all of that history and all of that context, not just with one of those individuals, but actually with a whole company that you're working with. With this new plan, you will also be able to auto sync all of this information. So for those of you who are using CRMs, you can actually easily bring in all of this information from Salesforce, from HubSpot, and have it on a regular updated basis. So I think for both of them, it's every hour, every few hours. So anytime you're creating a new account somewhere else, automatically have that reflect inside front, so you can be tracking all of this information across all of these various channels. With adding accounts inside front, you will also be able to have all of this in search. So once you bring that information inside front, not only will you be able to, at a high level, see your conversations over the past 7 days, maybe you want to look a little bit longer, but if any of you were using the old way of tagging information, using a tag for the company that you were working with, we know that many people on the outdated plans, that's something that they were doing. Now you no longer need to do that because you can just search directly for that account inside front. Another large change that I mentioned a little bit earlier is going to be new reporting. With our growth plan, you will have more customization inside new analytics reports. So not only will you get more customization overall, but as you can see here from this image, and I'll dive into it in a demo environment here shortly, you will actually have access to new types of reports to get all of this information that you need directly at your fingertips. One that I would like to highlight, or two that I would actually like to highlight, are SLAs and customer satisfaction. So for those of you who are not familiar with SLAs, that stands for service level agreements. Basically, you'll be able to track all of those SLAs for the internal time to respond to customers, how often your team is breaching it, and be able to understand why those breaches are happening. Is it because we're understaffed? Maybe it's happening with specific team members that we might need to talk about or really focus on in building up some of their skills. With CSAT, you can now actually report on customer satisfaction inside front. So for those of you who are maybe paying for another tool that gives you this information, stop paying for it. Consolidate your bills because it is free with the growth plan. You can have both proactive and reactive CSAT reporting, and I'll show you what that looks like. And this is a great way to understand what your customers are wanting out of you, how you're interacting with them. Use this information to understand, are we satisfying our customers, and is that satisfaction changing over time? So when we think about these times that all of our businesses are going through right now, this is such an important metric to understand, are we actually providing that best in-class service? Or maybe we're a little bit lower than expected. If so, what is the feedback that these customers are giving us that we can improve on? So I'm actually going to hop over to a demo environment of Front right here, and we're going to walk through some of those new capabilities that are on the growth plan. So as many of you are probably familiar with, here is the front interface. So we have our navigation pane. Clicking on any one of our inboxes, we'll be able to see our conversation list. We have the conversation, and then our plugins pane right here. But I'd actually like to start here inside contacts. Many of you probably familiar with this general contacts page here. We have the name. You can add any of those custom fields that you would want inside your settings. But on our new growth plan, you will now have access to accounts right here. As I mentioned, accounts are going to be all of those companies that you're working with. So here we can see all of those companies. Maybe we want to create a new account. We can give it a name, add an image of their logo, a description, and what email domains that we are working with them for. We can even add custom information. So for those of you who are in the account management or the sales, you have sales territories, you can actually say who is the individual on your team that is the account manager of that account. And I'll show you in just a little bit why this can be really important. So all of these are more custom fields that you can add at that account level. You're also able to import this information. So if you want to do a one-time import from a CSV, or you can actually directly do this from your CRM. So you can have that sync that is connected, and you can map the fields directly to front. So whatever you're having in Salesforce, automatically put that inside front, and then it will have that continuous sync with front. And again, I see that more and more folks are joining us. Feel free, let me know in the Q&A section. If something comes up, you have a question about it, feel free to just type it there, and I'll make sure to answer it. And again, if you don't see me answer right away, we'll be saving it for the end. So at a high level, this is a way that we can track all of our business information, not just the contact information. Coming to a conversation inside front, what we're then able to do is actually associate all of those contacts with an account. So here I'm working with Blair directly. I can see all of our conversations that I'm having just directly with Blair, but I know that I work with so many other folks at this business. Let me go ahead and see what other conversations we're having, what other contacts are associated, and all of this information right here. So can easily toggle between the individual as well as the full company. As I mentioned, you will be able to search for the account name here. So I can just type that name and be able to search across all of those conversations. So again, for those who might have used tags in the past to track if it comes from a certain company or if it relates to a certain account, you no longer have to do that, as you can just search for it inside front. The next place I'd like to take you is here inside analytics. As you can probably already see compared to your version, this is a new form of analytics. So really an updated version that you can have. And while I won't be diving specifically into analytics, if you do have questions about certain metrics, feel free, again, just let me know in the Q&A. But you can see we have a number of different reports here. You have a new way to view and filter this information. And two specific reports that I would like to focus on are SLAs and customer satisfaction. So here, SLAs are going to report on all of those breaches that we have across our inboxes. So here, great, you can actually see we have no SLA breaches, which is really awesome for our team. But you'll be able to build those SLAs inside your rules. So here, we can actually come and build an SLA rule, as you can see right here. And we might actually say, look, if a conversation is in our inbox and we have not replied to it in 8 hours, and you can say if you want it within business hours, maybe regardless of those business hours, then what you can do is add that SLA breach, notify managers or maybe groups of teammates, which we'll talk about in just a second. And you can even do warnings as well. So we say, within 4 hours, then go ahead and add a warning. So this is a great way that we can ensure and track to say, look, we as a business are replying to all of our customers within 4 hours. And as we all know, really the faster that we're able to get back to all of our customers, the more it impacts their willingness to work with us, wanting to come back to us, and even to ask us questions in the future. So here's how you can build those SLAs, and then you'll be able to track those SLAs here inside analytics, so right in this report. I also mentioned customer satisfaction. So you can see this new CSAT report right here. What you will be able to do is actually both reactively and proactively set up surveys to then see how you are trending. You can also have details to click into some of those surveys and see what conversations are coming up related to why you had 1 star. Great learning opportunities, a great metric to improve for your entire business. And again, this is also free of charge inside the growth plan. So if you are paying for another platform, save that money and get it right here inside front. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there for just a minute, see if there are any questions about accounts or about new analytics before we hop back to our presentation. All right. So hopping back to our presentation here, let's go ahead and dive into what else we're getting with our growth plan. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we will have new enhanced workflow management. So basically, with the new plan, you will have new rule capabilities for accounts and just greater automation. This is from years and a lot of feedback from our customers to say, hey, can we automate this? Can we automate that? Can we also do this? Now you can do it inside the growth plan. So all of those automations that you've been asking for, we've built. We have them inside this new version, and I'll show you some examples there. Or feel free, let me know in the Q&A, say, Matt, is there something, or this is something we want to automate? Just go ahead and ask me there, and I can walk through a rule for all of you. One capability related to rules that many customers have been asking is required tagging. So this is a new safety net that basically requires your team to tag a conversation before you can archive them, before you can move them, basically before you can do another action. So for those of you who are tracking analytics on tags, or you need to tag something before you can move the next step inside your own internal workflow, now you can have that safety net inside Front directly. And I'm actually going to hop over to the demo almost immediately here to walk through those. So inside our rules engine, we will be able to see all of those new rules that we will have access to inside the growth plan. So one already that you've seen is going to be the SLA right here, but we'll also have this require tag inside classifying our conversations. So this is going to be a pre-built template. You can actually just hop over here, and I'm going to say, look, if a conversation is inside our accident inbox, I actually need my team to tag it with one of the accident types that we have before they can move it, before they can archive it. And I can even have a tag list that I can basically say, you have to have a required tag. It's one of these three, select which one you want. And then that's how you can build in some of that safety net for your team. Another example of rules, one that I alluded to a little bit earlier, is going to be a potential custom rule that is going to be based on our account information. So we can actually say, look, whenever we get an inbound message and it's inside our inbox, and we'll just say here, it's inside our chat inbox. Then what we can do is assign based on an account field. So if we know everyone has an account manager, everyone has an onboarding manager, everyone has a salesperson that they work with, actually just assign it directly to that person. This eliminates the need for not only creating so many different types of rules, you can simplify it, but also just triage that much faster. I can actually say, look, I'm going to create that chat. We already assign it to a sales rep, so automatically route that to the sales rep so they can reply faster. So just a few different examples of the new rules that you will have access to inside this growth plan. So hopping back here to the slides, want to talk about a few other capabilities that exist inside growth. So one is actually going to be the ability to connect to Slack. So for those of you who are using Slack today, whether you love it, whether you hate it, now you can bring it inside Front. So we know that there can be a lot of chaos inside Slack, all these different channels, who to chat to. Now you can actually just have an integration and a thread directly inside Front. We have a new Facebook channel as well. So updates and improvements to the conversations that you're having with customers on Facebook. There are chat updates. So for those of you leveraging Front Chat, you will actually have a richer, more personal experience with your web visitors. So not only will you have more rich text in chat, but the ability to ask questions as well. So again, while these might seem like some smaller improvements, it is a great way to make sure that your team is just having all of the updates that our product team is building for any of these channels that you're using. Something else that is new inside our growth plan is the ability to have teammate groups. So this is a way that you can modify your rules to make sure that it applies to specific teammate groups. So in this example here, you can actually see we have teammate groups right here. You can say who is a member of these specific groups. Okay, in San Francisco, we have 820. In Paris, we only have 100 members. Then when you're building your rules, you can actually say the member has to be a member of our Paris office, or it has to be a member of the sales team, then apply this rule. So just a way that instead of having to either go through many different clicks or build out a number of different rules, this is going to save you time and effort in just making sure that front automation works for you. You will be able to publish company-wide updates on signatures and templates. Something else that the team is working on is just being able to give you custom fields here. So I know that many of you have asked for, we want to put our own phone numbers in our signature, but we want the signature to be the same across the whole team. Well, now it can happen. One thing that I will mention here is that we are working on a number of integrations that we are continuing to build inside Front's app directory. One example here is Grammarly. I'm not going to be going into all of the different integrations. If you do have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but just want you all to be aware of this concept that basically on the old versions of Front, you are not getting these updates to the new integrations, basically to that app directory store. And so rather than in your world today, you might need all of these different tools. Rather than having to use all of them, you can just sync them all with the newest version of Front. More reasons to make the switch in basically upgrading to this growth plan is that many of you, if you might encounter bugs on one of these old plans, we do want to let you know that in terms of these bug fixes or certain requests, we might have already built that or fixed that bug on the newest version. And so just want you to know that it could be, you could run into some errors there. While there are not many, and we don't want to scare you by any means, just want to be as transparent as possible because that is one of our company's values, that you could run into that. Also, anything that we are building on our roadmap, this will only be released on the newest version of Front. So on this growth plan, so anything, all of these releases aren't going to be released to the deprecated version. So an example of that, if we have a new analytics filter or a new report, that's only going to go in our current growth version. And now I think maybe the moment that many of you are waiting for is, how do I switch and save money? Well, for most of you, the new growth plan is exactly the same price. I'm going to repeat that again. Basically, everything that I just covered, this plan is probably the same price. If you are coming from Pro on the old version, growth is also the same price, meaning you just get more for your current contract. Really, no strings attached here. We just want to make sure that you are updating your plan. That's why we're having this webinar, to not only walk through the changes, make sure you're aware of what you're missing out on, and just know that there's no barrier to entry from a financial standpoint. In fact, we are actually going to be enabling a 14-day free trial of the growth plan. So if you are interested, please be on the lookout for an email from us shortly. So if you've attended this webinar, you'll likely get a recording of it. You will get a link to this trial signup, or you can just go ahead and type this in your browser now, basically requesting to say, hey, Matt, I want to be on the growth plan. Again, 14-day trial of the plan. And while we say free trial, again, want you to know that in making the change to the growth plan, for most of you, it's actually the same price. So no credit card required for this. We just want you to test out features, give us feedback, and make sure that this is bringing value to your team. If you've been saying, look, we've been needing SLAs for so long, go ahead, test them out, ask us questions. We can help build some of those workflows with you so that you are accomplishing your goals. We want there to be no barrier to entry, or really no barrier at all, for you interacting with your customers, providing that best in-class service, and making sure that front works for you. With that, I know I have been doing a lot of the talking, so I'm actually going to turn it over to all of you here inside the Q&A. Feel free, ask me any questions that you might have. If not, we can actually end this a little bit early. And you can see my email here, matthew@frontapp.com. We also have account services at frontapp.com. Always, always, always feel free to email us if there are any questions. And we'll go ahead and just wait here for a few seconds to see if there are any that we can answer for you. Again, as I mentioned, there will be a recording of this that you can go back and watch. That way, if some questions come up where you say, oh, Matt talked about accounts, how can you search for them again? Or how do you enable that Salesforce sync? We've got you covered. All right, well, seeing no questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording here. Again, feel free to email me, matthew@frontapp.com. We are so excited to get you set up inside our newest plan to make sure that you have everything that you need access to. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.